fortunately, in the semiconductor industry, a mechanism that enables us to deal with a lot of these policy challenges, and it's called the World Semiconductor Council, and it really came out of the Japan negotiations and is now growing into a global organization that China has joined, and China is an active participant in, and we look forward to their more active participation going forward. But in terms of intellectual property, that's a key for an industry that invests 18% of revenues in research and development. Intellectual property is the absolute key, and so a core starting principle for China to develop that their own domestic industry is to respect intellectual property. The flip side of intellectual property is anti-counterfeiting. And right now, the major global source of counterfeit semiconductors, which is a serious threat, a real clear and present danger here in the United States and around the world, is China. Essentially, what they do is they remark e-waste and old chips and ship them. And it's certainly the Chinese government has shown that when they focus on this issue, when they have the serious will to stop counterfeiting happening in China, they can do it. And we would certainly call on them to focus more directly, and I think that should be an important part of our trade policy as well. Free and open markets are critical. The growth of the semiconductor industry has been a global industry has been enabled by the Information Technology Agreement, established in 1996, and it has been important. The ITA has grown from 1.2 trillion to $4 trillion in terms of duty-free products, a 233% increase, and semiconductors make up a substantial portion of that. A recent WTO study on the ITA noted that semiconductors are the largest IT product category covered in the ITA and accounted for 33% of global exports of IT products in 2010. And so if China wants to expand its domestic industry, it needs to embrace an expanded Information Technology Agreement. And the reason that the Information Technology Agreement needs to expand is that technology is changing, and there are new types of semiconductors that are not covered under the existing ITA, and a couple of them are technology we call multi-component or multi-chip packages. And this is essentially the old circuit board is now on a chip, and that chip isn't necessarily covered by the ITA. And so we're looking for the ITA to expand duty-free treatment. And in the World Semiconductor Council, we have established agreement among all of the industries, including China, to do just that. And we look for an ITA to keep pace with technology and expand.
Wrap up in a minute.
Sure, I will. Another key policy area is in the area of encryption, nearly all ICT products contain encryption technology. The industry increasingly relies on global voluntary technology standards, but because encryption is so common, unnecessary regulation can really inhibit the ability to trade in these goods. And so we are calling on the Chinese industry and have agreed in the WSC to avoid policies that regulate commercial products with encryption. This is a very important aspect and something that we need to build on. I'll stop there. I would simply say that from our perspective as an industry, China's development of their semiconductor industry is a good thing. We applaud that, and as long as it's done in a way that is free and fair, that has open markets, protection for intellectual property, and international standards, we're very much looking forward to the growth of the industry. And one of the nice things about our industry is that innovation is not a zero-sum game. The pie is not a fixed thing. We've proven throughout the years that where innovation can come from all around the world, we can grow that pie. So we're not competing over the slices here, but in order to enable this global ecosystem to develop, there has to be the right types of policies in place. And so we look forward to continue to work with China on this. That's right.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Thank you to all our speakers. So Let me just, we'll open it up for questions in just a second, and we'll also adjourn precisely at 10:30, just so you know. A couple things. One, Brian, you mentioned Cemitech, and also SRC was up there. Just as a raw, naked advertisement, we released a report Tuesday on how a national network of manufacturing innovation should be structured. And we had a representative from SRC on that panel up on the Hill. And SRC is a great model of that, as is Cemitech, and the administration now wants to replicate that and create these kinds of industry partnerships with some government funding and with lead industry funding leadership, which is really the model for Cemitech. There is government funding there. There was. At SRC, there still is in parts of it, and certainly the Nano Initiative there is with industry leadership. Second point, Brian mentioned the ITA. There's, again, on our website, we did a fairly significant report on ITA expansion and why that's so important. So let me just ask a question, all three of you. You know, there's really kind of, if you think about this kind of conceptually, we have this competitive advantage. Think about it as a box sort of moving forward, and on the one hand, we're losing stuff off the back end. So other countries catch up, and they're able to take market share away at the back end, and our at the same time, we're adding things on the front end, if you will. So when you go down to the larger wafer size, think about that as adding onto the front end. Or when you go down to a smaller nanometer, you think about that as adding something onto the front end. So I think really our challenge as a country is to accelerate the expansion of the front end, but at the same time to slow down the sort of creative destruction, if you will, of the back end, when that is being done through inappropriate means. And we've heard about some of those: standards manipulation, intellectual property theft, and some other things. But my question is, you know, are the Chinese at risk? I'm chairing this U.S.-China